For 18 years, my wife took June 9th off from work. She always requested it months ahead. She left home before 8, carried the same white bakery box to her car, and came back near dinner looking as if she had spent the day at a funeral. She never told me where she went. The 19th year, I followed her. My name is Curtis Nolan. I was 66 then, recently retired from repairing municipal traffic lights around Columbus, Ohio. My wife, Elaine, still worked as an office manager for an orthopedic clinic. I stayed far enough behind that I nearly lost her twice. She drove north through Worthington, turned into an older subdivision, and parked outside a brick ranch house with green shutters. I knew the house. It belonged to Arthur Bell. Arthur had been our neighbor for 12 years before moving across town. He was 70 then, divorced, and living alone. Elaine took the bakery box to his front door. He opened it before she knocked. They stood looking at each other for several seconds. Then Arthur pulled her into a long embrace. I drove past without slowing. By the time I reached the next intersection, my hands were shaking. I had trusted Elaine for 37 years. Arthur had eaten at our table, borrowed my tools, and helped carry my mother's casket. Yet my wife had been spending the same private day with him every year. When she came home that evening, she set her purse on the counter and said, "Long day?" I looked at her face and understood that whatever June 9th meant, she had been lying about it for almost 2 decades. Elaine and I were not a perfect couple, but we were predictable. She liked plans. I liked fixing problems before anyone asked. We argued about money, my long work hours, and whether every loose cabinet hinge required immediate attention. Arthur and his wife, Ruth, lived 2 houses down from us in the 90s. Their daughter, Megan, babysat our boys and later became a teacher. Arthur and I were friendly, though never close in the way people assumed. He talked more than I did. He liked giving advice. Sometimes he gave it when nobody wanted it. By 2001, Megan was 29 and engaged to a man named Wade. Arthur disliked him. Wade changed jobs often and spoke to Megan sharply when he was frustrated. Arthur believed she was rushing into marriage because she wanted children. Megan believed her father simply hated anyone she chose. Their arguments became neighborhood knowledge. Then, after one family cookout, Megan stopped speaking to Arthur completely. I remembered the night. Arthur had been drinking beer and complaining in my garage. He said, "She's throwing her life at a man who'll make her smaller." Later, Megan asked me what her father had said. I told her, "He thinks Wade is a loser and wants you to call off the wedding." That was close enough to what I heard. At least, I thought it was. Megan left furious. Within a month, she and Wade moved to Cincinnati. Arthur blamed Ruth for not defending him. Ruth blamed Arthur for pushing too hard. Their marriage ended 2 years later. Elaine always said I should not have repeated the conversation. I told her adults were responsible for their own words. After seeing her at Arthur's house, those memories felt different. June 9th was Megan's birthday, and the bakery box Elaine carried contained the same peach pie Megan used to request every year. I did not confront Elaine immediately. Instead, I checked the old calendar stored in our basement. Every June 9th carried the same small notation, personal day. Nothing else. Then I found grocery receipts tucked into one calendar. Each year, a bakery near German Village sold Elaine 1 peach pie on June 8th. I called our oldest son, Jason. "Does your mother ever talk about Arthur Bell?" He hesitated. "Sometimes." "What does sometimes mean?" "Dad, why are you asking?" I told him I had followed her. He became angry, not surprised. "You shouldn't have done that. That isn't an answer." Jason sighed. "Mom told me Arthur was having a hard time. For 18 years? I don't know the details." That sounded rehearsed. I called Ruth next. She lived in Florida and had remarried. When I mentioned June 9th, she went quiet. "Elaine still goes?" "Yes." I wondered, what happened that day? Ruth said, "Ask your wife." Then she added, "And try listen before you decide what it means." People have been giving me versions of that advice for years. I went back to Arthur's neighborhood the following week, not to spy, I told myself that until I knocked on his door. Arthur looked older than he had from the street. He leaned on a cane and wore a hearing aid. He invited me in without asking why I was there. The white bakery box sat flattened beside his recycling bin. I said, "How long has Elaine been visiting you on Megan's birthday?" He looked toward the kitchen. "Since the first year Megan didn't call." "Why?" Arthur sat down. "Because I asked her." "Asked her what?" "To help me write a letter." On the table beside him was a stack of sealed envelopes, each addressed in the same careful handwriting. Elaine's, one for every June 9th. None had been mailed. Arthur said he wrote a letter to Megan each year. Elaine copied it neatly because his handwriting had become difficult to read. Then she brought a peach pie, sat with him, and decided whether the letter should be sent. Decided? I asked. She helped me decide. "How many did you send?" "3. "What happened to the others?" He nodded toward the envelopes. "Too angry. Too self-pitying. Too much about what she owed me." That sounded like Arthur. I asked why Elaine had hidden the visits from me. Arthur gave a small, tired smile. "Because I asked her not to tell you. That was not your decision." "No." "Did the two of you ever have a relationship?" His expression hardened. "No." I believed him immediately. Relief came first. Then anger followed. Elaine had not betrayed me romantically. She had still lied every year. Arthur explained that after Megan cut him off. He kept calling. He sent long messages. He contacted her school office twice. Megan threatened to change her number. Elaine told him to stop. She said if I loved my daughter, I had to quit making her birthday about my pain. So he wrote letters he did not always send. Elaine stayed because Ruth had left and most friends had chosen sides. "Why the pie?" "Megan's favorite." "You eat it?" "Usually one slice." "And the rest?" Arthur looked embarrassed. "Elaine takes it to a church food pantry." That detail should have made the whole thing seem harmless. It did not. I said, "You let me believe you, and Megan simply stayed estranged." "We did." "But Elaine knew everything. Most of it." I went home and placed the old calendar on the kitchen table. When Elaine saw it, she understood. "You followed me," she said. "Yes." She sat across from me. I asked, "How long were you planning to keep this from me?" Her answer was quiet. "I stopped making a plan a long time ago." Elaine admitted everything Arthur had told me. The annual visits, the letters, the peach pie. She also admitted meeting Megan twice in Cincinnati. That part Arthur did not know. "You went to see her too?" "Yes." "When?" "The first time was in 2005. "What gave you the right?" "Nothing." The answer disarmed me briefly. Megan had contacted Elaine after receiving one of Arthur's letters. She wanted to know whether he had changed or simply learned better language. Elaine told her the truth. Arthur still blamed Wade. He still believed Megan owed him forgiveness. But he had stopped contacting her without permission. The second meeting happened years later, after Megan and Wade divorced. I felt a quick, ugly satisfaction. Elaine saw it. "That look is why she did not want you involved." I looked away. The marriage had not ended because Arthur predicted it would. Wade and Megan simply became unhappy and separated peacefully. Megan feared that returning to her father afterward would look like admitting he had been right. Elaine tried to convince her that reconciliation did not require surrender. Did it work? Not then. I stood and paced the kitchen. "You were managing both sides of somebody else's family for 18 years. "Yes." "You decided I couldn't be trusted with any of it." "Yes." She did not defend herself. That made it harder to stay angry cleanly. I said, "You let me think June 9th was some private grief." "It was not yours." "No." The first truth was clear. There had never been an affair. Elaine spent those annual days helping a father endure the birthday of a daughter who had cut him off. But one question remained. Why had she decided the secret had to be kept specifically from me? Her answer was not Arthur's request. It was a conversation in my garage. Elaine remembered Arthur's words differently. He had not simply said Wade would make Megan smaller. He said, "I'm afraid she'll spend years defending him because admitting she made a mistake will feel worse than staying." That was still judgmental. It was also more thoughtful than the version I repeated. I reduced it to one sentence. "Your father thinks Wade is a loser." Then, when Megan became angry, I defended myself. I just told her the truth. I said, "Elaine had answered. You told her the sharpest part." I did not remember that. She did. A week later, Arthur asked me to call Megan and explain the full conversation. I refused. I said, "He made the mess. He can fix it." Arthur tried. By then, Megan believed he was rewriting history. The estrangement hardened. Elaine said, "You were not the reason they stopped speaking." I helped. Yes. That was difficult enough. Then she told me about a sentence I had used repeatedly after the wedding. "If Megan chooses Wade over her own family, that tells you who she is." I remembered saying it. At the time, I saw loyalty as a test. Megan had failed. Arthur had failed. Anyone who returned after drawing a line looked weak. Elaine believed that if she told me about the letters, I would pressure Arthur either to send them all or stop writing completely. If Megan contacted her, I would expect a quick reconciliation and judge every delay. "You thought I'd make it worse." "I thought you might. So you took away my chance not to." "Yes." Her voice was unsteady. Then she admitted the harder part. At first, she kept the secret to protect Arthur and Megan. Later, she kept it because confessing would mean telling me how much my careless summary had contributed. "And every year it got easier not to start that fight," she said. That was the second truth. She was protecting me from guilt. She was also protecting herself from my anger. The secret survived partly from compassion and partly from cowardice. I did not speak to Elaine much for several days. Not punishment. I simply did not trust the first words that came to mind. I called Megan. She was 47 then, still teaching, living outside Cincinnati. "I know about the letters," I said. There was a pause. "Elaine told you?" I followed her. Megan sounded disappointed. That annoyed me. Then I remembered I was calling because I wanted honesty, not approval. I apologized for what I told her after the cookout. She said, "You weren't the only reason." "I know." Dad pushed. I pushed back. Mom tried to stay neutral until she couldn't. Ruth had left Arthur partly because he turned every disagreement into a referendum on loyalty. Megan inherited some of that. So had I. "Did you read the letters?" I asked. 3. "Did they matter?" "Yes." "Why didn't you answer?" "Because some apologies still asked me to take care of his feelings." That was fair. Megan knew about the annual peach pies. Elaine once described Arthur sitting at his table with 2 plates, even though he knew Megan was not coming. "That made me angry," Megan said. "Why?" "Because sadness can be another way of asking someone to return." She was right. She was also moved by it. Both feelings had kept her away. After our call, I went to Arthur's house. I told him I was sorry for simplifying what he had said. He replied, "You didn't invent my arrogance." "No. I gave you plenty to work with." We laughed once. Then he asked whether Megan wanted contact. "I don't know." That answer frustrated him. He accepted it anyway. That was more change than I expected. I told him Elaine would not be coming alone the next June 9th. He looked cautious. "You coming?" "If she wants me." For once, I understood that this was not mine to arrange. Trust between Elaine and me did not repair in one conversation. For months, I questioned small absences that had nothing to do with Arthur. She answered, even when the questions irritated her. I tried to ask without accusation. Sometimes I failed. Elaine apologized for hiding the visits, not for making them. That distinction mattered. I would help him again. she said. I know. I would tell you sooner. That is the part one needed. The following June, she requested the day off as usual. This time, she showed me the calendar entry. June 9th, Arthur. She did not invite me. I did not assume I was included. The morning came. Elaine picked up the peach pie. Before leaving, she asked, "Do you want to come?" "Yes." Arthur looked surprised when I entered his house. There were 3 plates on the table. Elaine had called ahead. We ate 1 slice each. Arthur brought out the newest letter. It was short. "Megan, I miss you. I know missing you does not create an obligation. I hope your birthday is peaceful. Dad." He asked what we thought. Elaine said, "Send it." I said nothing at first. Arthur looked at me. I answered, "It sounds like yours." That was enough. He mailed it. 2 weeks later, Megan called him. The conversation lasted 11 minutes. No reunion. No forgiveness scene. She told him she was willing to speak again, slowly, if he stopped treating every boundary as punishment. Arthur agreed. He mostly kept that agreement. For several years, they spoke every month. They saw each other twice. Their relationship never returned to what had been, but it became real again. Elaine continued visiting on June 9th. Some years I joined her. Some years I stayed home. The choice was finally spoken aloud. Arthur moved into assisted living last year. Megan helped choose the place. That does not mean everything was healed. It means people sometimes do kind things before their feelings become simple. Elaine retired this spring. When we reviewed her old vacation records, June 9th appeared 18 times. Same date, same private day. We sat at the kitchen table, looking at the list. "I made it look worse than it was," she said. "You made it look exactly like what you were hiding." That's fair. I asked whether she ever thought I would follow her every year. Why keep going? Because I promised Arthur. And why not tell me? She looked down. After a while, I was protecting the secret because it belonged to me too. That was the most honest answer she had ever given about it. This year, June 9th came on a Tuesday. Elaine baked the peach pie herself because the old bakery had closed. She left the crust too thick. Arthur ate it anyway. Megan joined us by video call from Cincinnati. The conversation was ordinary. Her classroom. His new roommate. A television, remote he could not operate. Afterward, Elaine packed the remaining pie into a plastic container. On the drive home, she said, "You were quiet. I was listening." She glanced at me, checking whether I meant it. I did. For almost 20 years, June 9th looked like proof that my wife had another life. In a way, she did. A small room in her life where she tried to repair damage I had helped cause and nobody knew how to name. I still believe she should have opened that door sooner. She agrees. That does not give us back the years when she walked through it alone. At home, Elaine wrote June 9th on next year's calendar. Then she handed me the pen. "Coming." I placed a question mark beside the date. Not yes, not no. Just enough space to decide later. She looked at it, nodded, and left the calendar open on the counter.